members
to contribute. I feel there's no higher need or greater purpose for us as human beings coming together to want to grow and contribute. And you being here on this call today really demonstrates to me your passion around that as well. Yes, I am a self-confessed finance geek. Hands up if you know an accountant. Hands up if you are an accountant. So perhaps my fellow friends out there, I knew at a young age that I was one of these special people who had this unique gift, that I was a princess of spreadsheets, that I was a queen of bean counting, that I am a master of data and formulas and ratios that get my heart racing. And interesting, my parents knew I had this unique gift as well at a very young age when I wouldn't stop playing with a calculator in my cot. And my partner knew when I wouldn't stop talking incessantly about budgets in my sleep. But I knew deep down inside that I had great value to add and great ideas to share. And I really was passionate about making an impact. But what's a very little known misconception of me? I'm naturally an introvert. I preferred to play with numbers than people. And in my journey, I had to learn that no matter my passion, no matter my knowledge, no matter my ideas, if I could not effectively communicate, present these ideas, then I wasn't going to be able to influence and impact and add the value that I wanted to add. And I needed to learn how to step in, step to, and step up through self-leadership and then leading others. And that was, perhaps it's easy to say that, and yet in my experience, it wasn't so easy to do that. And there was many challenges that I found within myself to overcome so that I would step in, step to, and step up. Turning the mirror now, I'm going to invite you to share in chat or to share your ideas or put your hand up or speak up. What are some of the challenges that you perhaps may have experienced that have stopped you from stepping in, stepping to, step up? Or as we have many leaders on this call, some division directors, where we see capability in others, and what's some of the things we may hear to say, oh, no, I don't want to step up to that role because of this or because of that. So type away in chat, what are some of the challenges that you may have personally experienced from stepping in to stepping up, or that you might see? What are those common when you ask someone to take a role in a meeting, or to take a role on a club executive team, or take a role on a division team or a district team? What are some of the challenges you hear when you invite people to step up? I can see people busy typing. Oh, yeah, great. Thank you, Dorothy. My plate is full. Time poor. So there's a consistent, oh, that one's coming out strong, isn't it? Time poor. And too much information. Perhaps I'm out of my comfort zone here in terms of too much information. And that could be a sense of like, wow, there's a lot to know and I don't know all of this information yet. Yeah, thank you. So some great shares there in terms of the themes that we might know are coming up. Yeah, thank you. And so today, this evening, and today in other parts of the world, as we have two time zones here, I'm going to unpack with you what are the 5 common challenges, my experience personally working to break through, and also what I continue to see and coach and support others with stepping through so that they step to and they step in and they step up to leadership and have the growth, and therefore that opportunity to share ideas and make the impact, really share the greatness that we have inside us with others. So the first one, I'd like to commend you all. What's the number 1? Capacity. What does that sound like? I don't have the time. They are time poor, don't have the time. All of those came through pretty strong in our chat. And my plate's too full. So actually, in fact, taking on a leadership position is one of the greatest ways to improve your time and your capacity in all areas of your life. How is that so? Who would like to suggest some ideas here? How is taking a role in a leadership position, stepping in Toastmasters to a meeting role or a club role or a division role, how is it that that will actually help you learn the skills for capacity? Yeah, great. Thank you. So we have Caroline who said, well, it's actually when you're stepping into leadership, you'll learn how to delegate. I've actually created more capacity. Great answer. And any other suggestions there? The challenge, how you need to be time managed to do everything. Yes, so you learn time management skills when you step into leadership roles, and that in turn will help you create and learn how to have more capacity in your life. It's a safe environment to practice without judgment. What a great comment there. So how true is that? If we want to learn the skills in terms of taking on extra responsibilities, learn the skills with how I can manage my time, then Toastmasters is a safe place to do. And Carlos, thank you. Learning how to trust. So to trust, perhaps trust a team. Some ideas there, Carlos. Who do we learn to trust? Perhaps trust ourselves, that we have the capacity within us. Thank you. So in terms of some of the skills that I have learned through taking on a Toastmasters role, so one of the important skills to overcome the challenge of time, when I don't feel I have enough time, I don't know how I can take on this role and fit it in my life, but it was through taking the roles, working with my mentors in Toastmasters at a meeting level, at a club executive level, that I learned the skills in Toastmasters around how to improve my efficiency, around how to set priorities, around how to set up boundaries around my time and do time blocks. And so some of those examples were some great templates, some great processes I've learned from other members. When I stepped into a Vice President of Education role, which now I actually think is my favorite role out of all the Toastmaster roles in terms of taking on a club executive role. And yet, when I first took it on, I was quite overwhelmed by what I may have needed to do in terms of the VPE role, the Vice President of Education, setting the program, reaching out to members, getting them to take roles, making some changes. But what I learned was some great processes and systems from other club members and other vice presidents of education, and how to actually systemize the role. So I set up a bi-weekly and weekly process where I would dedicate half an hour one week, dedicate an hour the other week, and I would have a system and work with my club to work with me with that system around setting a draft agenda, setting the final agenda. And then having that system, I found I wasn't trying to share my time and run around and do too many things at once. It was actually learning how to protect and have time blocks. And Elon Musk is one of the gurus that we see that really promotes time blocking. So I learned skills and systems and efficiencies through leaning in and taking these roles. And it actually created more capacity in other parts of my life. Another example we've seen is taking on in our club the treasurer, the secretary role. And in the secretary role, we actually have created some really great templates on how to take the minutes. So it's pre-populated, it's systematic, and it's systemized each meeting, and it's reduced the amount of time to actually put that task together. And what's more, learning the skills of delegating, we actually make that a meeting role now in our club. So as a stepping into and coaching others, that first step on how do I start to delegate, well, the secretary doesn't need to take the minutes in every club meeting. Here's the template. Would you like to learn that skill in this meeting? So learning how to delegate with others. Is anyone else? We've got some other ideas coming through there. Yeah, great. Thank you. Carlos is saying, we learn to trust through learning, listening to others' perspectives. And that's certainly one way that we can learn, how can I overcome time? So the power of the ask as well. So I think Carlos said, when you listen to others' perspectives, are we asking others, how do you plan your day? What are the skills that you have? And Toastmasters gives us that great environment to actually work with and share the best ideas. that others have? How do you plan your time? How did you approach, how much time did it take you to do the Vice President of Education role? How did you make that work? How did you improve on that? Help me learn those skills, and I can take them into other parts of my life as well. So learning, not just to learning from others, the best ideas and tips that I can take on, and then also learning how I can delegate to others so I don't need to do it all myself, and take those small steps to starting to invite others to share with me. Divide and conquer, breaking the role down into sub-responsibilities. So any other thoughts there in terms of how and your experiences on how you have, through stepping into leadership roles, learned to actually create more time, more capacity, more efficiency? You can do more than you thought you could do. Looking for any hands up there. Yeah, still learning how to do this. Great. Carlos, your hand's up.
Yep. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My take on this is, actually by walking the talk. As a VP of Education, I must be the first one to deliver my speeches, to send my evaluations in advance, to complete, to have all the things that I'm asking there. Point in order is, we cannot demand what we do not deliver first.
Yeah, thank you. So leading by example. Thank you, Carlos. And I'll and so continue to put your hand up if you've got some ideas to share. But I'd like to think that the when we think about the one that we hear the most, that I don't have time, actually, in fact, work with our members, work with those people we see the capacity, the capability in, the opportunity. I see something in you to take on this role and help you grow. Actually, in fact, through taking on these roles is where you learn the skills to be more efficient, to be more effective, to delegate, and to be able to do more through a team. So that would be the number one opportunity I would see to conquer the I don't have enough time. And so I find now within myself, through 11 years in Toastmasters and taking on various roles, learning the skills, learning others' techniques and systems, it's actually played out in my work, in my professional life, that I've taken these skills to be more effective and more efficient, and also in my personal life as well. So the answer lies within. I don't have enough time, but taking on, stepping in, stepping up will help you to learn how to create more time. So what's our second one here? What I'd like to have us now thinking about is capability. So what does this sound like? What do you think, perhaps somebody on the call has heard this, or type into chat, what does this sound like when it's perhaps within ourselves? I'm not comfortable stepping up into this role or leaning into this role, or perhaps we've heard this from others. What might be the type of comments we hear here in terms of why we may not want to step up? Yeah, great. So I'm new. I don't know how to do this role yet. I don't know what's required. Thanks, Shaquille. So what other types of comments might you have heard around this? Oh, yeah, thank you. What if I fail? Yeah, a good one there we might hear. Yeah, that certainly is an experience that I've had in terms of, for me, that do I have the capability? I don't have the experience. I haven't done this before. I'm not qualified to do this. I don't have the qualification. I'm good at my job, but I have no experience leading. Yeah, great. Thank you, Nigel. So it's like, I haven't done that before. I haven't led a team before. And so actually, in fact, what's the opportunity here? By taking on a leadership role, by taking on a meeting role, that's how we actually build our capability, how we build our experience. That's where it will come from. And as was said earlier, I think it was Carlos that put into chat, what better place do we have with Toastmasters than to actually be supported to step into a role that we haven't had experience before? So myself, I didn't have the capability, I didn't have the experience. I remember a particular district director reaching out to me one particular year and saying, I have an idea. I think you would be able to help me and be a district conference convener. And I remember sitting back and going into panic and shock and thinking, I've never managed a conference before, planned a conference, led a committee team before, you know, a 3-day event with 300 people. Are you kidding me? And what a better place than in Toastmasters to say, and I love this expression by Carol Dweck from A Growth Mindset, and that is believing in the power of yet. I haven't learned how to do that yet. I haven't had that experience yet. And what a great place in Toastmasters to say, I know I can say yes. The Richard Branson, I'll say yes and work out how later, because I know that people will support me in Toastmasters, those who've walked that mile before, and I'll learn those skills with them. And so I took on that opportunity, really developed some great friendships through the conference committee and taking that on and running up the event for that district director. And one first needs to get over that, but I haven't had the experience yet, because how do we get the experience? And it's situations like that that have then played out in my professional career through taking on those roles in Toastmasters and going, well, I said yes, and I worked out how to do that. And I asked people questions and I asked mentors around how to do things, and people shared their ideas with me and I learned. And as soon as I said yes to that committee, I had the same day particular past district directors messaging me to say, I'll be on your committee, Carolyn, I'll support you. Like, how phenomenal is that in an environment like Toastmasters to know that we'll be supported as we lean into a new role and develop new experience. So the power of yet. Carol Dweck, they're now bringing this into schools, into curriculum, and teaching our young people how to develop that growth mindset from a young age to go, I'm not good at math yet. I'm not so good at getting up and giving a talk in front of the class yet. I'm not so good at making friends yet. And the power of adding yet. So I'd like to ask you, when you perhaps see within yourself or hear within yourself, I haven't led a team yet. What's the story you're telling yourself there around your capability? And perhaps it's the Carol Dweck power of yet, or perhaps it's taking on board the Richard Branson. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to work out how later, because I have these fabulous people around me in Toastmasters that will support me. So perhaps the other option here is to flip it and think, what if you see the capability in others? What if you're now a new division director and you're leading a team and you don't quite know them yet? And you're encouraging them to step up. How can we make sure that we support people to bring them through into roles where we're asking them to step up? They haven't learned the skills yet. Perhaps they don't have all the skills yet. What can we do to support as leaders and inviting others to come through? Any hands up there? Shaquille.
Thanks, Carolyn. I think the first thing that we would what I've tried to do as a new divisional director is sit down with my team and help them to understand what exactly does it mean being an area director, and then working with them in terms of what are the priority issues like club visits, club reports, organizing the area contest, and those kind of issues, and reassuring them that they're not there alone to face the lines. I've done that last year. I've gone through that, so I know a little bit more than you, and we can work together in this, that I've got your back covered, don't worry, go there. And one of the things that I requested my team was that at any time we have a challenge, go back to what we saw in Apollo. Houston, we have a problem. Call me if that helps at any time. I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and we'll talk about it and resolve it together. Back to you, Carolyn.
Thank you. I love that. And I can see claps from others here on the meeting tonight as well. So isn't that great to say, call me, I'm here to support you, and let's talk about and break down the role. And Shaquille, I love to think that in sitting with, we don't always have all the skills we need, So where are the areas? So looking to get to know our team members, and you're getting to know your team members, creating that great foundation. So where are the gaps, and where can I then support you to succeed in those gaps? And perhaps it's myself, perhaps it's others, but let's look at supporting you then in closing those gaps, in developing that experience you don't have yet. And a great comment there in terms of regular meetings with your team. Yeah, so Yvonne's saying, like, have regular meetings, have those regular touch points with your team. Yeah, checking in. I'm here for you, as Shaquille said as well. And some reinforcement comments there. Loving hearing that. Thanks, Alexandro. And so when I think about myself, one of the challenges I had with stepping up to a role I hadn't done before, when I first look back in my early leadership years, I thought my finance geek, getting my finance guru on, I could always balance a balance sheet. I would always make sure that every corresponding debit had a corresponding credit. I liked that things would balance and close out, and it was always nice and tidy. And I thought, leading, when I was made a manager of people, I needed to have all the answers. And I had this fear of failure that, what if I don't have all the answers? What if I make a mistake? What if I don't know? And one of the biggest shifts for me in changing the way I looked at a role in leadership was that the best leaders aren't the ones with all the answers. The best leaders aren't the ones that need to be the genius. I have all the answers. The best leaders are the ones that make others the genius, that bring out the genius in others, that are genius makers. And so I loved the body of work by Jim Collins, where he analysed Fortune 500 companies, the ones that were successful, sustainably successful. And the leaders on those particular organisations, you wouldn't have even heard of them. They really had these qualities that he calls this humility and this fierce drive coupled together. So the humility, which we talk about in Toastmasters as well as a servant leader, have this humility and this drive to want to move forward. And coupled with those two things, it was about wanting to actually build others. It's not about me. I can step away because it's not about me, because I've actually built and supported others in the team with their capability. So that was a great shift for me in my mindset, to lean in and go, it's actually not about me making a mistake. And I love this analogy. Who's the chefs out there? Who likes to be a particular cook, get in the kitchen, make some fabulous meals? Yes, I can see Christine. I've had the joy of tasting some of her food. And when we think about where my mindset was, I was thinking as a leader that I needed to be the chief. So stepping in my first leadership role, I need to have all the answers. That's why I've been put here, isn't it? Isn't that why? Because, I seem to have done a good job in the role that I've had. And so step me up, but now I need to actually have all the answers. And I was being the chief. And it wasn't until I made the shift in my own mindset to go, actually, I need to take myself out of the chief. I need to take I out of chief. And I'm left with the word chef. And the chef in my mind was the leader that I wanted to be. And that's where I found I had higher engagement, and I had people who wanted to be on my team because it was about us collectively coming up with all the answers. It was about inviting ideas from others. And so I was the chef bringing those ingredients together, which created something greater than each of us individually. So I invite you to think about, for yourself or for others, it's not about the fear of failure, because a leader is actually about bringing the answers out of everybody else and the ideas out of everyone else. We will find a way, we will find an answer. So any other thoughts there? Toastmasters is that safe place for us to step in when we haven't learned the skills yet. Just checking for hands. And I love this quote that Michelangelo is famously known for saying, at the age of 87, I am still learning. And I love to lead with that in terms of I'm still learning. There's always something to know. So keep ourselves leaning in. Toastmasters is not a spectator sport. It's where we learn through stepping in. And it's a safe place to step up and be supported to develop those skills we haven't learned yet. So the power of yet, may you take that on board. So what's our next one? So our next C, let's unpack that. Our next C, culture. So culture, have you had an experience where perhaps yourself or perhaps someone that you're working to encourage to step up to leadership, and Well, the team that were previously running it, I didn't quite like the culture there. Perhaps the climate in that particular team, or the way they were leading, or the climate, it just wasn't right for me. Perhaps the conditions that had come about, the way I saw the previous leader, the way I saw them be treated, and I don't think I want to sign up for that. Who's seen some challenges like that that may prevent people from going, oh, I'll throw my hat in the ring, I'll step up, I'll join? Who's seen some of those challenges? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of nods in the team there. So how might we think about overcoming those challenges? What are some ideas there in terms of how do we overcome ourselves, stepping in, stepping up, or others where perhaps we've seen something we didn't like in the previous team, the way that things were led, the type of leadership, or the way people were treated? Any ideas there from the team? How might we push through that? Just looking for Carlos, would you like to share?
Yes, I would like to address a very important issue, to me at least, is that we need to give a very open and frank view of everything with the utmost respect for everyone. I think today we live in a world of one, and we all need to be clear about this idea. We might not like the ideas, but we like the people. Everybody is right, but everybody has different backgrounds. So my point is, respect should be kept at every moment. We need to protect the dignity of every person in the team. Back to you.
Thank you, Carlos. And yeah, I can see Nigel's clapping there, giving you some big claps, and some other. Would anyone else like to build on Carlos's thoughts here? How could you encourage others? How could you encourage yourself to step in and lead into a leadership role if perhaps you didn't really necessarily align with the way that people were treated before, that was against your values or against your thoughts? Yeah, great. Thank you, Christine. So you may not like the person, but you need to respect the role. That's it. And I really, thinking about leading, it's about respect, about developing respect. And we heard that come out with Carlos as well, that it's perhaps we may not be in agreement with the ideas, but that's separate. Keep the issues separate to the person. We don't make it about people. We make it about the particular issue, or about the ideas. Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. So leading by example. And myself, where I've had to push through and go, oh my goodness, they've asked me to come in and be part of this team and lead this team, but the culture is not really very strong in that team, and there's some behaviors in that team, or the way that things are done in that team is a little bit against my values. Well, in fact, it's actually through stepping into situations like that that you really develop your skills and your leadership and your self-leadership to another level. And, there's a fabulous parable or quote that says, ships were not built for safe harbors. And so taking on and leaning into a challenge where perhaps the culture of that team is not quite right, or that business, or that particular committee team, what can I do to lean in and actually shape a different outcome? And that's where we can be the change that we want to see. And this is where we really grow our leadership skills. And I look at in myself in organizations, it's one thing to come in and lead a team that's running well. It's another thing to say, I've had skills in transformation, in transforming a culture, in impacting a culture, in influencing a culture, in creating a turnaround in perhaps a business. And that in itself is a great opportunity for us to step in a safe way again in Toastmasters and be part of teams and say, hey, there's some things not as I wanted them to be. And here's a great opportunity for me to demonstrate that I can have that impact myself. And so I really invite you to think about, in terms of how can I bring a healthy team? And in Toastmasters, when we take on club officer roles, when we take on district officer roles, we're trained. And one of the fundamental trainings we have is how to build healthy teams. And we are given great tools, like how do we actually develop, and even at a committee level, how do we develop our team charter? And one of my clubs, we had a fabulous time coming together as a club executive committee at the last club officer training and going, what does a team charter look like? Okay, and it walked us through each of those areas that we could come to agreement as a team and put all our ideas and what are our personal values and what we would like this club to look like and what do we want to stand for as a club executive team. And we got to know each other and build that really strong foundation, and that put us on the right foot then moving forward. And that was a great experience that I can take into my work environment. And when I'm leading a new team or a new project, then I can use those principles to go, how can I work here and support with us to actually create the team that we want to stand for? And being really positively received around those tools. Some of the best tools that we learn simply through stepping into club officer committees, our club executive committees. So I'd really like you to think about when we perhaps, and I think I was talking with Dorothy, the program quality director, and some great ideas we talked about in seeing others do, is that, well, I perhaps made notes of some of the style that didn't resonate with me. But now I can be the change to make sure I don't actually repeat those behaviours. So we can learn from what we see in Toastmasters, the evaluations, where I can take on board what I see as a really great practice, and I can take on board, where there's opportunities that for styles or behaviours that aren't quite as I would like to be. And then I'll work to then, as I said, lead by example, Yvonne. Then I'll make sure I lead by example and I don't work to have that in my leadership style. That's not how I'd like people to experience me. So I can take on the list of what I'd like to do and what I would like not to do as well. So any other thoughts there in terms of how we can look at overcoming the challenge around our third C, around how we make sure that if it's a culture or conditions or climate within a particular previous that we've seen, and still we'll step in and take that on board.
Carolyn, if I could step in.
Yeah, thank you. I was just looking for hands. Thanks for keeping an eye. Oh yeah, and then Alexandra. So yeah, if you'd like to go first, and then Alexandra.
One of the things that I have experienced and has empowered me to change me is when people in my Toastmasters club, when I first began, they didn't just compliment me. They told me exactly why they were complimenting me. So for example, I noticed that you are so prompt in being here on time every week and being prepared. I noticed that when you give a speech, you come dressed professionally, ready to deliver. And I mention those things because when someone is resistant to taking on a role or a leadership position or whatever it is, they often need to be reminded of what they have done well and that you've seen in them to remind them, oh yeah, I do that. And that's a good feature.
Yeah, thank you, Dorothy. Isn't that really powerful? We can, in terms of how we give feedback, we learn to give feedback in Toastmasters. It's quite different from a compliment, where a compliment might fall short to say, oh, good job, or you did that well. But what specifically, and what can I repeat, and what strength was it that you saw in me that had a positive impact? And we learn those skills in Toastmasters to break that down and to be not only so using those skills when we're evaluating in a speech to say, this is what I saw you do well, and this is how it impacted me as an audience member. We can use that in leadership as well, around this is what I saw you do, and this is how it actually impacted in terms of your leadership style, your behaviours as well. So yeah, really great call out. And when we, as leaders, if we're looking to encourage people to see that capability within themselves and that they can make that change, we can catch it out in that way of giving that specific feedback and calling it out. And when what happens when someone actually calls out something that I did well? What do we tend to do? Do we do more of it or less of it? Yeah, we do more of it, don't we? You know, it's that you've shone a light on something that I've done, and I'm going to, oh, okay, that had a positive impact. I'm going to do more of that now as well. So we're strengthening someone through that positive feedback. And Alexandro, I saw that you had your hand up. Did you have something you'd like to add here? Your hand's down now. That's okay. Perhaps it was a high five, Alexandra. There was a compliment there that you were resonating with. Fantastic. And so when we think about conditions, climate, culture, something not as I wanted it to be, then how can I actually take that on board and integrate that in the way that I would like to be experienced moving forward? Alexandra, your hand's up again. Okay, and you're unmuted. Okay, over to you. What would you like to
I'm sorry. I'm just a little bit. I agree with Dorothy. I don't have a light here, so it's dark. And I agree 100% with Dorothy. When we can just be more personal and really take care of the other one. That's great. I love it. So yeah, support each other. It's the human way. It's the only way. It's the only way we can unify this planet or this world or our societies. Let's take that as a very good example, Dorothy said. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, lots of claps there that you're getting on that comment. Thanks to you, Alexandro. And you know, when and to your point, it's respecting all the individuals. It's seeing, and there's a lot of comments in there as well around the person. And so one of the great shifts in my mindset when I was asked to take on a particular role, leading another team, and the previous manager before me, they had a style that was not my style, and they led the team really well. And I was thinking, but I don't have that same style to run that team. And it was really important. And one of my mentors working with me at the time said, and really helped me to be comfortable stepping into being myself and leading the team in my own way, and around stepping into my own shoes rather than trying to step into someone else's shoes. So I'd encourage you that if you're thinking about a particular role or a leader and you're looking at the predecessor, perhaps it's the opposite. Perhaps it's like, it's not the fact that the culture or the conditions were not as you'd like them to be. Perhaps you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to step into the shoes behind that person. I don't think I can step up to the way that they were president. They were such a great president. And yet it's about us being comfortable to step into our own shoes and do it our own way. And yeah, I can see a lot of nods there that it's like we can work with people to go, no, don't step into their shoes. Don't be the leader or the manager that you think, or the president that you think, or the VPE that you think that was the previous person. You bring your own self to the role, and you bring, you know, your way of doing it, and be okay with that. I think Toastmasters is a great place for us to be able to step into those roles and going, okay, I'm going to make it my own. I'm going to step out and be who I am, and that'll help me build the strength to look at then when I lead teams in other environments, in other committees, in other organizations, other volunteer organizations, workplaces. I'm actually getting more comfortable being who I am. This is me as a leader, and not trying to be what someone else is. And it's one of the areas that I work most with managers and leaders, is around really dispelling that myth that who they think they need to be, rather than stepping into actually, this is me, and this is and I'm okay with stepping into my own skin and leading in my own shoes and being the leader in my style. It was a great quote that I heard this week, and it was around videography. So getting comfortable putting short videos up online. And one of the overcoming challenges around that, and the great statement that was left with me, was people don't want to engage with a persona. They want to engage with a person. So as Alexandro said, you know, keeping it real, like being yourself. So who are you as a person, not the persona that I think you all want me to be. It's like just being comfortable in my own shoes. So seeing some nods there. Yeah. And so bring yourself, bring your own, step into your own shoes, whatever size they are. And one of the great things we can ask here is around leadership lessons. So we've got the power of the ask there with our mentors as well, around how can I lead here? How can I have this impact? How would you make a change here, or as well? So checking on the chat there. All right, so stepping into, that was our third C in terms of some of the challenges to stepping in, stepping up. What's our fourth C? So hands up, who likes conflict? Who likes to manage through conflict and challenging times? Seeing a lot of laughter, but I'm not seeing many hands up. How about we say it in a different way? Who doesn't like conflict? Who's good at conflict? Who's good at managing conflict? Or is it, I'm not good at managing conflict yet? So we can bring in, the power of yet. So actually, in fact, we can say, I don't like conflict. I don't like conflict, or I'm going to like conflict. I'm working towards it. And it's actually through taking on these roles in leadership that we develop those skills to actually manage when other people have different needs and need to come together and be resolved and have resolution. That it's through stepping into leadership roles and committee roles and team roles, or chairing a Toastmaster meeting, and we have different perhaps requirements on the agenda, and we've got a packed agenda, but somebody wants to do an induction tonight. There's different needs, and how can I step into the Toastmaster role and facilitate an outcome here? So actually, in fact, it's through taking on roles in this safe environment of Toastmasters that we can develop those skills on how to manage the challenges, to step into courageous conversations and build our resilience in working through those particular areas. So some great comments there. Conflict gives us the opportunity to ask more questions. Great. So seeking to understand others' opinions. I love that. And conflicts to discover leaders who solve them. Yes. So we develop solution skills and facilitation skills to understand what everyone's needs are, and then how we can come together and have some resolution there. So I love that. So one of the most powerful shifts in my own experience in terms of conflict, as I said, as an introvert, I preferred playing with numbers more than people. Conflict for me was really uncomfortable, and I didn't like leaning into that. And one of the biggest shifts for me was to actually, what is the story I'm telling myself about conflict? How am I perceiving conflict? Am I actually perceiving conflict as like, oh, red flag, I don't want to go near that? Or can I actually see conflict and define it in a different way in my mind? And one of the powerful things that we train in club officer training is how to build healthy teams. And after we build the foundation of a healthy team through having our team charters and getting to know each other, one of the things that we learn next in building healthy teams is the next layer is that we get comfortable having healthy debate. We get comfortable making sure that everyone had an opportunity to speak, that everyone got to share an idea. And what I'm sharing here is those 5, how do you build a healthy team? What are those 5 steps to building a healthy team? The club officer training that we have, and it's built on the model of Patrick Lencioni. So we build trust as a team through our team charters. And once we've got that trust as a team and we've got to know each other and we've agreed on the way that we'll work together, so now let's actually not have false harmony. Let's not have artificial harmony. Let's just not pretend everything's fine and not have the difficult conversations. It's about us actually all sharing our ideas respectfully. It's not about the person, but the idea is about the issue. And so one of the great opportunities I had in my club was to grow those skills through, as a president, working to actually talk about how can we change things in our club, because we're having a lot of visitors come and we aren't converting as many as we should be. Other clubs are having a higher conversion rate. So really, what's going on in our club? And through all of the feedback and the input, and as a team talking about, and two of the big changes we made was changing venues to be a more professional venue and changing the time of the meeting and making it longer and having a social break. Now that sounds quite simple in terms of, oh yeah, that sounds like a logical 2 steps, but there was a lot of discussion and a lot of ideas, and some people were for that and some people had different views. And well, what about people who might work longer, or if they may not be able to travel, or perhaps they can't stay back as late, or what about that venue? Is it another 5 kilometers from where we are now? And there was a lot of sharing. And through chairing those type of opportunities in our roles in Toastmasters, I got to develop the skills around how to make sure we built that second layer in healthy teams. Let's get all the ideas out, and collectively we came up with some greater ideas between us all that have really supported that particular club to thrive. So we've got some further comments there. Yeah, so Nigel's saying, yeah, agree. Sometimes having a person in the room willing to say what everyone else is thinking is really important. Yes, so everyone has a voice. And sometimes we may need to advocate a voice for someone else who perhaps was like me, that was really introverted, and I prefer to play with my numbers than people. So help me get my ideas out. And sometimes conflicts also provide more opportunities to a leader to practice empathy and patience skills. That's really a great point there, Lydia. Thank you for sharing that. So actually, in fact, perhaps I don't like conflict. Perhaps that's a reason I don't want to step into a position or a leadership position. But it's in fact, that's where you learn those skills, and those skills that don't just impact you in Toastmasters, that impact you in life, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and having courageous conversations. So any particular experiences? Who'd like to share something around that themselves? Developing opportunities through leadership where they've been able to chair, bring together all the different ideas, develop those skills, overcome those skills. Seeing any hands up? I can hear someone's unmuted. I'm just checking there. Yeah, Nigel, thank you.
Carolyn, yeah. So I recently took over a new team and I saw culture scores go down pretty rapidly. So I had to address that quite quickly. So what we ended up doing was having a meeting, getting the whole team into one room, and, you know, basically gave everyone the opportunity to talk. So that started off as an interactive engagement and then followed on to open and honest communication to try and build that trust layer out, and being very clear in the messaging to say, you asked for this and we've delivered this. And we just continued to repeat that message as we saw culture continue to improve. So that was a real positive outcome.
Oh, well done. And thank you for sharing that, Nigel. I really appreciate that. And it's those, isn't it? Each time we make that courageous step and that courageous conversation, and that's where respect comes from. One of the most challenging conversations I had to deliver early in my professional career was to actually advise somebody that they ate certain foods and it would actually come through in their skin, and you know that could really be. I had to have a conversation with them around their personal odor. That was one of the most challenging conversations I've ever had to have. And, you know, in terms of stepping into that uncomfortable, courageous conversation. And I delivered it, thank you, Lydia, with empathy. And I delivered it, you know, patiently and from a point of like, and that they were so grateful that I brought their awareness to this. You know, and we worked together for 20 years, you know, after that point in time. And what it did is it actually, the respect for me as a manager and leader, that was like really building strong points, not just with the individual that I had that conversation respectfully with, but the other people that were coming to me and raising it who did not want to have that conversation. It amplified my respect that, you know, don't always need to like a leader, but you build the respect. And so each time I have one of those conversations, people really, it lifts your respect meter as well. So thanks for sharing, Nigel. And that's where leading teams and stepping into those challenging conversations really helps us to strengthen those skills. And the last C, who has anyone else experienced this one like myself, that I'm not confident enough to take on that role? I'm not confident to actually like jump in and just be the backup speaker today at short notice. I'm not comfortable yet. I'm not confident enough to be a Toastmaster. I haven't done that before. Has anybody either experienced this or they're experiencing this when they're inviting other people to step up for roles? I'm seeing some smiles and some nods there. Yeah, thank you. So absolutely. And so where do we get confidence from? Can I ask someone to unmute or type in the chat? Where do we get confidence from? Where does that come from? Shaquille, I can see you going to the computer.
Karen, I've been in Toastmasters for 3 years, and at every responsibility that was offered to me, I kept saying no. I ended up doing it, and through small learnings, my confidence increased by leaps and bounds till I accepted my last position as division director. And my plea always used to be that, but I've never done this before. And Dorothy and Karen Burgess and people told me, well, isn't it time you do it? Right. I belong to, my home club is a young club, only 3 years old. I'm one of the charter members, the only surviving members. So we went through a very turbulent period, and before that happened, towards the end of the year, one of the charter members called me up and said, Shaquille, we need you to be the club president. I said, I've just been toasting for the last few months. I have no idea what Toastmasters is or about leadership. She said, no, you learn about Toastmasters. And I said, all right. So that was my first position. Second year, I made the vice president education. And then third year, I said, we're going through the doldrums again, and I don't like the way our VP membership or the club is working, and I want to take over the VP membership role. And I'm happy to say that we've had that open conversation, and now I'm saying, I want to do this. I want to do this. So it wasn't that, I could do everything. I still can't do everything, but I'm getting incremental success. But those small successes is, helping me to increase my self-confidence tremendously. Back to you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Shaquille. And that is absolutely perfect. That is my experience as well, that the confidence is a myth. If you're waiting for confidence fairy dust to sprinkle on you, that when I feel confident enough, I'll have a go, it's not going to happen. Confidence comes from the doing. It comes from the experience that each time we take that small step and we look back and go, oh, wow, look what I just did. That's where confidence comes from, that we don't go from being a Toastmaster in my first meeting to chairing a conference overnight. It takes those building of steps. Dorothy.
Carolyn, it just made me think about when I had only been a Toastmaster for about a month and a half, and someone asked me to chair the next meeting. And I went, oh, I can't do that. And I go back to what I had said earlier. That person said to me, but Dorothy, I've seen you and I know that you can do this. So it was somebody else's belief in me that made me believe, okay, I'll give it a go. Big difference.
Thank you. Big difference there. So yes, that confidence, that perhaps we can lend some confidence, we can build that in others when we see something they haven't seen in themselves. And I love the quote by Brene Brown and the body of work by Brene Brown. And she sort of famously brought the 1910 Theodore Roosevelt speech back, front of mind for many people. And that was very much around the man in the arena speech. So if you haven't read the 1910 speech from President Theodore Roosevelt, the US president at the time, and he spoke about stepping into the arena. And we can have all these people that sit on the sideline and perhaps they make some pot shots or perhaps they give some feedback, but they're sitting in the seats. They're not actually stepping into the arena and having a go. And each time we step into the arena and we just take that small step, we grow and we grow our comfort zone. And it's through those small steps. And as Shaquille said, each one of those steps, each one of those small lessons, we build and we build and we build. And, from myself, as a fear of getting up and speaking in front of people and making a mistake, and getting up and actually building my skills in a club meeting, to then being asked to be a speaker, a test speaker at a conference in front of people I don't know, to then getting up and doing competitions, to then being an MC at a small conference, to then being an MC at a larger conference, to then being able to convene a conference, to then I found myself one day on a cruise ship standing in front of 700 people and just stepping up and doing stand-up comedy because, hello, well, let's just keep growing that comfort zone. What's the worst thing that can happen? But it takes those small steps. And again, Toastmasters is not a spectator sport. It's a doing. And that's why actually, in fact, where do we grow our confidence? It's in Toastmasters through taking roles. So grow your experience. That's how we build leadership in Toastmasters. And then we can take that into our other professional roles. So the question there, what is the story I'm telling myself? Am I saying I don't have the confidence to do this? Because where does confidence come from? And so that's covering out our 5 C's today. We spoke about the challenges to overcome. I don't have capacity. Well, actually, in fact, when you take on roles in Toastmasters, that's where you learn the skills to be more efficient and to manage your time more effectively. I don't have the capability, the experience, the qualifications yet. Well, actually, this is where you learn to build those capabilities, and the power of I haven't learned them yet can come into play. Or perhaps it's like, oh, perhaps the culture was like too strong. I don't think I can step into those shoes, or perhaps it wasn't as I wanted it to be. Will be the change that you would like to be and bring your own shoes to the party. Or perhaps you don't like conflict yet. And this is where you get to learn those skills and get comfortable having courageous conversations. Or perhaps you're still waiting for the confidence fairy dust. So over to you. We have a few minutes left now. Type in the chat or one share if you'd like to share. What is something you're going to do differently? Toastmasters is not a spectator sport. What's something that you will take away to either support yourself, overcome the challenges, or to support others break through those 5 C's that can stop us from stepping in, stepping up, stepping to, stepping out? I have a poster in my office, that I look at every day. Do I really want to be comfortable, or do I want to make a difference? So how can you make sure that if you've got that expert in you, how can I share that? Stepping out of my comfort zone. Great, Nigel. So take every opportunity to speak in public. So I would say to my VPE, with my 2 VPEs and my 2 clubs, I'm always a backup speaker. If I'm in the room, just put me on the spot. I will do it because that's now out of my comfort zone, and I keep building that skill. Thank you. Any other shares? I trust you're all putting something to paper. The power is in the action and the knowledge. The power is not in the knowledge, but it's actually putting it into action. And I hand over now to Dorothy to close us out as we come in on the hour. So I trust you've had some value today in the 5 C's and make an impact for you or to others to bring their genius out and step into leadership positions.
Great. If you feel right now that you have something that you're going to take away from tonight, please raise your hand. Yes, I think there is something in there for each and every one of us. Let's give Carolyn a big round of applause. Carolyn, what is so wonderful about Toastmasters is that although many of us see our clubs as small or our areas as small, we have so many people to reach out to. And I am especially grateful to Carolyn because a fellow Toastmaster that I met at a conference, and we became, well, I wouldn't say close friends, but we became good acquaintances. And it's because of all the connections of the people that I've met through Toastmasters that I found Carolyn to join us here tonight. And so I'm very grateful to the friends that I meet in Toastmasters and how willing everyone is to serve each other. And I am very grateful to you, Carolyn, for being here tonight and sharing your expertise, your knowledge, and being patient with us and helping us to learn and grow. Pardon me, Toastmasters, it's my pleasure to serve you. This video will be going up on the District 21 YouTube channel. So if you just Google that and look for District, write it out, District 21 Toastmasters YouTube, it'll take you there and you can see, you will be able to see this and many others that we've had. So thanks for being here, each and every one of you. Again, I hope you take this back to your club, maybe even share the link with your club members so that everyone can benefit from them. Until we meet again, have a wonderful day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.
Thank you.